Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, GPAR. This is Matt Braden, part of your professional staff team. I want to welcome everyone. Glad to see some new faces and names and some of our folks who have been dialing in, tuning in, logging in, whatever you want to call it, somehow getting into our various presentations. So thank you all for being a part of this kind of new way of us connecting with our members. The response has been pretty phenomenal. And we're going to keep on pushing forward and getting new content for you guys in the coming days and weeks. Hopefully that's not forever, but needless to say, we're just going to keep on pushing forward. So before we get to today's webinar, we have something this afternoon. L&I, you guys deal with L&I all of the time. So the Commissioner of the License Inspection Department, David Perry, he's going to be on the chat this afternoon at 1 p.m. He's going to go through a bunch of different stuff with his staff as well as field your questions. So I think that's probably maybe the most valuable part is that opportunity to have access to a Q&A right with the top dog of L&I. And you guys know sometimes that can be a really tricky maze to navigate yourself through. So work on your questions now, be prepared, and take some notes. It should be pretty good for you guys. Fast forwarding to tomorrow, 10 a.m. this time tomorrow, we will have Alex Charlton from PAR. He's the top legislative person there from PAR, so he'll be there to give us an update about what's happening in the Commonwealth's capital. You can pose questions to him as well. And then we fast forward to tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock. It's our social time. We open up the listing lounge and we have a virtual happy hour with you folks. And you raise the glass that's filled with your choice beverage, whether that's agua, adult beverage, hot tea, whatever it is. And then we'll start back off next week with some coffee talk with Stephanie Biello. So with that, we get to our 2020 President, Stephanie Biello. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Leigh Brown, for joining us. So Leigh, we have been in our stay-at-home for about 30 days now, and thus far, our association has been disseminating the information to our members and providing Zoom meetings with local, state, and national representatives. And those of us who have been through this, you yourself, through the Great Recession, understand that this market, what we're in right now, is not the time to wait it out, but to actually double down on professional and personal growth. So we felt you were the right fit at the right time to work with our members on an exit strategy and how to get through these next few weeks. If you have not experienced a Leigh Brown presentation, be prepared for the next 3 Thursdays. It'll be fun. She's motivational. She's going to give you some great tools and really work with us. And we're really, really happy that you are going to be with us for the next 3 weeks. So let's give her a nice, warm virtual welcome to Leigh Brown.
Good morning, friends. Oh, look at all that little quiet applause. That's pretty doggone cute. So kudos to y'all for spending the time doing professional development when you know that most realtors right now are fussing and whining and complaining about what they can't do. So our focus is going to not be on what we can't do, but instead on what we can accomplish, because that's going to be the difference maker between the realtor you were 30 days ago and the one that you'll be on the other side of this pandemic. Knowing that, of course, Pennsylvania has more restrictions than anybody except New York. And yes, it's draconian, and yes, it sucks, and there's no question about that. But we can't focus on it. That doesn't win any battles. What we can do, and I'll say this again, is thank our leadership, because Stephanie, this is not the year you anticipated when you signed up to be a volunteer leader, but this is when we see who our leaders are, because you make it happen regardless of your situations. And when you guys have a chance to hang out with your government affairs staff, you need to thank them, because they're working an ungodly number of hours trying to get some kind of resolution to real estate. And unfortunately, in the space that we're in right now, our members seem to have fallen into two camps. You either believe that if you leave your house for 25 seconds or even talk to a client on the phone, you're advocating for bodies lying on the side of the road dead, or you're acting like everything's normal. And for most of us, there is a professional adult place where we can continue to do the things that are necessary while letting go of the things that are not, so that we can protect our health and the health of our communities. So just remember that before you spout off at your volunteers or your elected officials, there has to be an understanding of how we can be grown-ups here. So please convey to your fellow members when they get all fussy and yelly online, you've got to be the grown-up that goes to them and says, hey, we can be grown-ups here and let's figure this out, that we are solution finders. So the whole goal of this 3-part series is to help each of us think about how we change the opinion of our communities for who realtors are and what we do, and simultaneously build our businesses for the future on a better foundation than the one we had going in. For those of y'all that I don't know, I am 20 years in the business this year, halfway to Realtor Emeritus, yes, on the way. And the reality is I had a different 20th year planned. I had client parties lined up. I was going to do some stuff with Habitat, going to do this, going to do that. And of course, everything is out the window now. And I'm on day 31 at home myself, because while North Carolina's rules are not as restrictive as Pennsylvania, our market went dead because Charlotte is very restrictive. The only thing I can do in Charlotte as a realtor is a final walkthrough. I can't even go to closings, which is a requirement by the state. So I can only FaceTime into a closing. And y'all know how that feels when you spend so much time with a client and you want to be there to answer their questions correctly and be their resource. And that's been taken away from me. And that's hard to deal with, because as realtors, frankly, we think we're very important when we're very, very important. And so the whole essential versus non-essential, we've taken it personally when it was never intended to be taken personally. What's happened is we never really explained to our elected officials who realtors are and what we do. And we're going to talk about that a little bit and how we can change the whole paradigm. And so our whole series here, #BeTheResource, this is your chance, y'all, to stop being perceived as just a realtor. And you've heard people say that to you, you're just a realtor, like it's no big deal. You just dress up and drive around, you get paid for doing nothing. We're going to change that to how we can be the realtor and be the resource. And what I want you to look at here is a 17-year-old man. And, you got to call him a man because the hormones have hit. And so they're 17. And he expected to play in his high school basketball championships, and that was taken away. And he expected to be doing workouts to prepare himself to go play in school, whether that's D1, D2, D3, JUCO, doesn't matter. This kid had plans and goals. And when this coronavirus thing put us all on shutdown, he lost his ability to play ball, which means he's got a choice to make. And when you're 17, your brain's not even developed. So when I talk about realtors needing to be adults, for heaven's sakes, our brains are actually done. His isn't. So what's he going to do at 17? He can not go to the gym now, and he cannot go play with his buddies because, the neighbors will turn him in for playing basketball. What's he going to do? He could lay on his couch, eat Doritos, and stare at TikTok all day. And then in June, his coach calls and says, hey, Jim, come on back out. We're having a workout. Got some scouts over here. I want to have them see you play. If he laid on his couch from the beginning of March until June, he's invited to a workout, that's probably not going to be his best outing. In fact, he may lose his future opportunities because he chose to take the path of least resistance instead of the really challenging, hard, do it by yourself path. As realtors, you have that same choice. And we have members right now that believe the world has ended and that the world's out to get them. And what am I going to do? And I understand it. As a 20-year realtor, this is my third big market disruption. My first one being 9/11. I had been in the business for a year and a half. On 9/11, I had clients in my car from Manhattan who had family members working in the World Trade Center. So you want to talk about a day I'll never forget. It was a surreal conversation. And they chose not to move to Charlotte. They said, we're going to stay in New York because this is our people. We're going to stick it out. But with 9/11, we had what could really be described as if you look at my face, not the screen for a second, this is what happened in 9/11. That was 9/10. 9/11 hit us like, and then it went, and we said, and we figured it out, and it came back out. That was a V-shaped recovery because 9/11 was driven by circumstances. But then we had in 2007-ish, and I say that because it hit Charlotte around the latter part of 07. Y'all were probably fairly similar because we weren't the bubble markets of Phoenix and Las Vegas and Orlando. We were all moving up. And then when it went down, we went like this. We went, and then we got down to the bottom of the drain and we just rolled along at the bottom there for a while. And then finally things started to come out. And so it was definitely a big U shape. And that was not circumstantial. That was a structural problem. So for anybody who still feels the panic of the Great Recession, I'm not even joking. I do think that realtors that survived that have unaddressed PTSD because it was so painful and so scary for so long. And you watched so many people go under and you could only help but so many of them. And that was really, really hard. But that was driven by structural problems. And if you feel like that's happening now, it's not happening now, and you need to understand what happened then. So I still highly recommend the book or the movie, The Big Short. It's really dramatized, and frankly, Brad Pitt doesn't have enough of a role in it because he's super cute in that one, but it will better explain to you what went wrong and what tranches are and how the financial system had gotten itself broken enough to break all the rest of us too. The situation we're in now was like 9/11, where it hit us all, and it's hit us in varying levels, but we're all hit right now. We've lost our spring market. It's not happening. And to the realtors who still think we could reopen it today, the economy, and have a spring market, it just won't happen this year. And so we're going to see a different kind of sales year. If we come out of this sooner rather than later, and I pray to God that we do, because the data right now show that they got the models wrong, for which I'm grateful, because that means we haven't seen the deaths that we thought we were going to see, and we haven't seen the hospitalization, so yay. But if we come out sooner, we're more likely to see a V. The longer this takes, the more we'll see of a U, because it will take longer for those who are unemployed and out of income right now to come back. So I say all of that so that you can think to yourself, how am I going to be the version of myself that finds a way to keep moving, that finds a way to take whatever action I can take so that I don't turn into this? Because if you let the fear and panic run you like it ran a lot of us in these other situations, you'll be laying on the couch in your yoga pants, eating bonbons and staring at Tiger King. And I know that's what's happening with realtors, because the number of comments they make about, I haven't showered in 3 days, not helping your case at all. So considering that, how we're going to be the best version of ourselves, we have to define exactly who realtors are and what happened to the real definition of us. We know how hard we work. At this time of year, realtors are traditionally working from sunup until past sundown. You are working 12 to 14-hour days just to take care of everybody and to do it really well, because most realtors, I can't ever say all because you know how that goes, but most realtors are determined to do the best thing for the people they serve. And you don't even always get paid for doing the best thing for the people you serve. You are the one hoping that one day you get paid for doing the right thing. But our elected officials don't think that about us. They think that what we do is hold opens, because that was the first thing to get jumped on realtors. Y'all shouldn't be having opens. Okay, for real, we probably shouldn't be having them anyway. That's not how you sell houses, and it's not safe. And when they said don't do opens, I said, well, thank you, Jesus. I don't want to do them anyway. This is great, because it didn't make sense. But they think that they're negative because your elected officials, their real estate experience in their personal lives was probably 20 or 30 years ago, because elected officials don't tend to change houses a lot. They like to stay in their district. they watch HGTV, just like your buyers and sellers do, and just like mine do. And when you watch an open house on HGTV, it has 50 people in it, and they're shoulder to shoulder fighting over a house, and there is no social distancing. And we all know the reality of an open house is that for 2 hours, if you get 2 couples in there, you're like, that was a win. My marketing must have worked. And if they came in at the same time, they went 2 different directions, and you're just trying to keep an eye on everybody. But we never explained it to people, because when we are on social media and marketing, we talk about how great we are and how busy our open houses were. And that's not even what you paid for. The other thing that got attacked was showings. Are showings essential? Well, I think we can all answer for the fact that virtual showings are pretty fantastic as a good baseline. And frankly, any realtor showing 50 or 100 houses to one client is malpractice, because that means you did not interview your clients correctly. And if you want to argue with me about that later, then I'm going to win, just so you know. But the reality is, if you're asking the correct questions and you are paying attention to your market and you've previewed and spoken to your fellow professionals, you kind of know what's out there. But does the client have the right to go into a house that they're buying? I'm always going to say yes, because there's no smell-o-vision online, y'all. And you know that a smoker house carries a discount. A cat house comes at a discount because it comes with a different set of issues. And let's not even think about our poor allergy people. They can't go in some houses because it just flares them up. But because when we're on our marketing and our social networks, we talk about showing. That's all professional politicians think we do, because they see it on HGTV. And in 30 minutes, you, the realtor, show this nice little couple 3 houses. You sit at a nice cafe that's waterfront and discuss it, and then they buy one and you're all done. And they thought that's what we did. The reason there's a fight about essential service is we know that's not what we do. You know who realtors are? We are, I can describe it in 3 words. You are a professional problem solver. You are paid to solve problems. Now, what problems do you solve? Well, here's the rub. It's different every single time, because you have different buyers with different motivations and different sellers with different motivations, and every property is different. And in fact, you know this because y'all are in a northern market. The house is different in May than it is in November, because you have to take seasonal considerations into effect. And then you have school zones, and then you have water and sewer and road issues. And it's a wildly different scenario every time. And the reason you have a job is because you are the professional problem solver. Your clients hired you because they don't know what to do next. And you might not have all the answers, but you're the one that says, we'll figure it out. I got a guy. Let me call over here. Let me call over here. We'll figure it out. Nobody knows that about us except for us. And we have failed to tell that message. So we're overdue on it. And we're definitely overdue in regard to the communities that we serve, because if people thought of realtors differently, it would be a different situation that we're in right now. So as realtors, we need to all understand why you do this. And a lot of us landed in real estate kind of by accident. You're like, well, this didn't work and this didn't work, so I may as well do real estate because that looks all right. I like houses and I like people. And then you get into it and people either flare out quickly because they find out it's really, really hard, or they get addicted to it and start working 24 hours a day because you're like, I love this. I love real estate. So why do you love a job that may or may not pay you, where you're going to work an ungodly number of hours, be screamed at, cussed at, yelled at, sometimes fired, and so they can pay their brother-in-law who just got his license? And you can fall off a porch while you're measuring a house, break a leg, have no insurance. Why do y'all do this? Realtors don't do real estate for money. You might start off that way, but then you find out there's some bigger purpose that you can fulfill through real estate. And that's part of why people stay in this game so long. But again, we fail to tell people that. And if you'll read this book, and frankly, the reason y'all haven't read this, and I have been preaching about this book for years, you always tell me you're too busy to read a book. Well, now you ain't too busy. Read the book. Or tell me you don't have time. Well, you have time, so you should do it. And frankly, this book, Start With Why, if you read the first half, you'll totally have it figured out. The second half kind of regurgitates, so you have permission to read half, but you won't. So just watch his TED Talk. It's from about 10 years ago. Look up Simon Sinek, TED Talk, Start With Why. And there's a ton of good stuff on his channel. In fact, you should watch the video that he did about millennials. It was a really great interview and will help you have some better conversations about generational differences. And start with why. He walks us through the fact that most of us are good at detailing what we do, and we never bothered to articulate why. So when you're talking to a potential seller, you tend to tell them what you're going to do. I'm going to do a free CMA and photos and put a sign in your yard and get you offers. I'm going to negotiate it and get you closed. What? And most of your competitors can do all those same things. So why you versus your competitors? Why use a realtor when a website can do a lot of those things, right? And we've seen this for the last couple of years. Realtors' number one complaint for the last couple of years has been the lack of inventory. We don't know what to do when there's not enough inventory. Plus, it's become super competitive because you've had hedge funds in there competing with your buyers. iBuyer, Open Door, OfferPad. Hedge funds like BlackRock and Invitation Homes have been scooping up houses to where your first-time FHA buyer could not compete, and your seller said, well, you're here to list my house, but I got this number from iBuyer. Can you do more than this? And is this right? And you just clenched your teeth. Well, they're not in the game right this minute. You talk about a nice perk of coronavirus. Thank you, coronavirus, for making the hedge funds think twice about real estate, because we've become a little bit of an uncertain asset class and their equities positions have gotten hammered. And I say yay for that, because I'm frankly tired of my little old FHA buyers getting beat out by hedge funds who just turn every neighborhood into a rental market. So if that's changing, the person that you met with 60 days ago about selling their house, plan B is off the table. Who's plan A? You, the realtor. Why are you still here? I'll tell you why you're here. Now, I've traveled at this point in my 20 years in real estate. The last 10 I've been teaching and instructing while I'm still producing here in the Charlotte market. And in 49 states and on 5 continents, I can break realtors into 3 main categories as to the kind of realtor you tend to be, knowing that all of y'all are some combination of all 3, and something different might bubble to the top based on a different property or a buyer or seller, and the scenarios always change. But we have our top producers. They are so good at saying, oh, I'll get it done. I'm number one. I know the builder. I know the floor plans. I rule the roost. And when you get an award from your company, you're like, I'm number one again, been top agent in my office for 57 months in a row. And there is a part of the public that loves you for that, because they're saying, you know what, you're a bit much, but you totally get houses sold. So I'm just going to suck up all your ego and deal with it. And there's nothing wrong with market share. The problem that the top producer has right now is optics. When we're in a space where our friends and family and neighbors are talking about different fears and concerns, if you're over here saying, sold another one in 5 minutes, yep, looks like I won the office competition again in March, you're really, really hard to stomach. So the way we have to think about this is, how does the message of who we are as realtors and what we do for our communities change based on the surroundings that are around us? And do we shift our message? For most of us, we don't. You find something that works and you just stick with it. Most realtors don't update business cards and websites unless the business cards run out and the website goes out of business and now you got to do a new one. And we should be constantly massaging our message based on what's happening, because right now your sphere and friends and family, they're talking about being trapped at home with their kids, trying to homeschool and praying that somebody will reopen these schools, and they're in the house with a spouse that they haven't spent this much time with ever, and they're trying to figure that out. And in fact, they've now got a honey-do list that could be getting done and it's not getting done. And they're watching Tiger King. They don't even know why they're watching it, but they're watching it. And then they're having more happy hours than they've ever had, because have y'all seen how the sales of alcohol have gone up during this? I mean, it's crazy. And then they're putting on the Quarren 15 because the kitchen has become your break room. And my refrigerator yelled at me yesterday. It told me to get out of here because I can't stay out of the kitchen. Baking for me is therapy. So that's where I've been hanging out, and that's just not good. And that's what my people are talking about. Your people are likely talking about the same things. They're not talking about getting the house ready for the market or showing houses or we're having this happen and life is changing. They're in a very specific space. So if you were the top realtor in 2019, do you understand that 2019 right now may as well be 1919? We talk about the Spanish flu, and that could have been January because that feels like an entirely different lifetime. So you got to change it up. So if you sold 100 houses last year and you were top dog, if you say I sold 100 houses last year, you are incredibly unlikable. But if you say, man, 2019 was a great year and I don't even remember 2019 at all because it feels like forever ago. That's a way to say I was successful and I acknowledge that things are weird and different now. You could also say, I sold so many houses last year that I know the manager of the local Walmart neighborhood and he hooked me up with some extra toilet paper, but I'm not a hoarder. So what I want y'all to do is DM me if you've got somebody in need. I'll go sneak attack and leave it at the end of their driveway and they can Lysol it up and they'll have a little something. So that you could say, because I've been successful, I have the resources, and because I have the resources, I have the connections, and because I have the connections, I understand what the concerns are, and I'd like to alleviate that for other people. These number one agents, you could be doing some really cool things in your community right now, and you've got to think about the optics before you press post right now. Now, I think most realtors are actually my second category here. I love her. She's an educator. And she's actually a Sunday school teacher right here, but I feel like she's actually most realtors with their A clients, because that's your 7 A clients. 2 of them are paying attention. Little orange-haired kid, little purple shirt girl. They are dialed into her, listening to her, absorbing it, doing what she says. The rest of them are there, but they're either stupid or not paying attention or just not ready yet, and they're just kind of hanging out. And if you're thinking, Leigh Brown, I don't have stupid clients, I'm saying, yeah, you do. You got that buyer that called you and said, hey, Stephanie, hey, I found this house on Zillow. Will you show it to me? And you look it up and you're like, it sold 3 years ago. It ain't available. And they're like, oh, hi. And you say, listen, I told you where to search. That's not the place to search. And they're like, okay, sorry. And you're like, I'm glad you called. You should always call me, because they're still loyal to you, even if they're not totally paying attention. And look how she perseveres through that, right? She's just like a realtor. Got her smile on, lipstick on, earbobs. She's dressed up and ready to go. And she continues to educate, knowing that at some point it's going to sink in. And frankly, that's why a lot of really successful realtors were teachers in their former lives. They're very accustomed to how they have to continually put the same message out there until it gets through a thick skull. But educators actually have a little bit of a challenge in a normal market, because the educator mindset tends to be other people first, which makes it hard for you to ask closing questions like, do y'all want to buy this house? Well, in a market that we're in right now, we're not pushy realtors, because you can't be. Not a whole lot you can do. You certainly can't pressure somebody to buy a house right now. So have you thought about that as a message? Yeah, I'm so excited, because my favorite part of real estate is helping people understand how it works in Pennsylvania long before they're ready to go buy a house. And right now, I can't be pushy if I tried. So if you just want to get educated, you should call me, because I got time, you got time, and I can have you ready so that if you buy in a month, you're ready. And if it's 3 years, I got you covered. What better message could you put forth to people about who realtors are than that you want them to make great decisions and be ready? And in fact, right now, people have a lot of questions. They don't really know who to ask, though, because the information keeps coming in from 87 different directions and they're overwhelmed. But if you're the realtor who's their resource, you should be getting these questions and saying, well, here's what I know, and I can get you some more information if you need something different. Because the educator realtor is also really good at humility, which is something a lot of realtors need to learn. And she will say, I don't know, but let me find out. She doesn't want to go out on a limb and make promises she shouldn't make, and that should be all of us. Now, our third category is my triage realtor. That's the realtor who, the minute all this went down, said, I got this. This is my time. Been waiting on the market to change because I know how to persevere. I'm going to make it happen. That's me as a realtor. I love the drama of real estate. I love wild situations. When somebody passes in my family, I'm the one that says, I'm calling a funeral home. I'm going to order the death certificates and set up the service for the family while y'all are crying over here. I'm going to handle things, because I am at my best when things are uncertain and are a mess, because I know how to react. That's the kind of realtor you need to be with some people right now. And I think about our healthcare professionals, and how many of y'all know nurses and doctors, and don't forget our cleaning and janitorial staff in the hospitals. We should remember they're like legit on the front lines, but a lot of us are just talking about the people with degrees that are healthcare workers. So just FYI, don't forget your janitorial staff. But you know people in those roles, and are they fussing about going to work? Nope. They just put their stuff on and off they go. Post a little picture, make a little TikTok, they do their thing, and they just go make it happen. And they're probably exhausted and scared too, but they don't show it because they know they have to keep moving forward. The triage realtor is the one that says, all right, let me ask you some questions. What's going on? You're panicked about your mortgage payment. All right, breathe for a second. What kind of loan do you have? You don't know what kind of loan you have. Okay, who gave you your loan? What was the bank? Where's your mortgage statement? Let me help you figure out. You need answers? All right, we're going to call this one. The triage realtor just keeps asking questions to help find solutions. And then you're going to say, all right, there's pros over here and cons over here, because the triage realtor tends to be not super mushy-gushy, which I know that's my biggest flaw as a realtor. I'm not super huggy about that. The educator realtor, you're good at being huggy. Number one realtor, you just want to hug for the selfie for Facebook. But the triage realtor is just going to keep asking, not judging, not upset. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to help you stay calm. We're going to move forward. Now, all of y'all are some version of these three. So the question becomes, how do you let people know that that's what you do? Because none of that is wrapped up in open houses and dressing up and driving around. It's all wrapped up in that role of being the professional problem solver, which is exactly what people need to know about us. And with all apologies to NAR, because I love the That's Who We Are campaign. I think it's beautiful and it's the best messaging we've ever had. But it's also a little bit mushy-gushy right now. And right now, our communities need to know who realtors are and why they should call us. Because I say, this is our time. We don't have the hedge funds in our way. When your neighbor has a question about what does forbearance mean, an FAQ on a website is not their preferred method of finding out. That's when you call the realtor and you say, you know what, let's figure it out together. So knowing that, what are we going to do? In your mind, I hope each of you has now thought to yourself, all right, I'm mostly an educator, but I'm also a top producer and I'm careful with my language. I do need to ask questions a little more directly, or whatever you're thinking there, to help people understand something about who you are as a realtor, because it's different. You've got thousands of agents in Philly, and that's not even counting the real estate licensees who are normally driving Uber and Lyft, but you've got all this competition in the space, all the websites. How do people know there's some reason they should call you? So your homework between now and the next session is this right here. You have got to update your marketing, your websites, your social profiles, all the places people find you online. Because, and I'm going to say this with love as your mama hen from North Carolina, I could take all y'all and put you in a room and look at all your websites and try to figure out who's different from the other one. I couldn't tell except for your headshots, because you're not telling that story. When I look at most realtors, when they post their bios, it says, you love helping people find houses. All right, what's that got to do with anything? You are a realtor. Okay, that's cool. That's your membership. So what kind of realtor? Who are you? What do you do? Now, for each of y'all, you're working different market segments. You've got the first-time buyer pros. If you do first-time buyers, I can pretty much guarantee that you're an educator at heart, because you love the tears and the hugs and the hand-holding, and you love that segment. And then your luxury realtors might be in that top producer category because you think you work your way into the luxury world, and that's a different category altogether. And frankly, they look for different vocabulary. And the triage realtor, do you work with divorces, estates? Yep, anything that's got lawyers involved, I'm going to be the one that loves being in that space. And so how do you help people know you can be their kind of realtor? Obviously, always following fair housing, because this is April, which is Fair Housing Month. I'm not talking about that stuff. So just be very clear what you do for one, you do for all, but you can speak to your market segment. So if you look at my Facebook page, this was actually a screenshot from last week. I changed my cover art during Holy Week, and I changed it again yesterday, because you really should be updating your cover art on Facebook so that it looks like you're paying attention. Anyway, this quote is my favorite quote. It's Winston Churchill. for I myself am an optimist, does not seem to be much use being anything else. And I remind myself that no matter how blue I am in the course of a very weird day, if Winston Churchill can be the prime minister of a tiny island nation while Hitler's putting his boot on the throat of the world, get fired from his job, then get rehired and basically save the world, I can make it through coronavirus. So a little perspective never hurts. And it also helps people to know a little about who you are. My clients can all tell you that I am a super optimistic person who's a little inappropriate with the humor at times and totally right there with them the whole way through. In fact, I don't know who's drawing on the screen, but I'm totally enjoying the little yellow squiggly that just showed up. It was like a little burst of sunshine. One of my clients actually closed yesterday remotely, and my heart was broken because I had to FaceTime from their closing, and it's a first-time buyer. I love first-timers as much as I love my estate sales. And she posted on Facebook about it, and I wanted to be with her, but she was the one I had to educate, right? Well, she loves what it says on my About page, and she told me that. She says, it's so true, you do help people. Because the action verb that you're using in your description is what's going to tell people what kind of realtor you are. Selling is not really the realtor you want to be. I've met you, and I know that the way you conduct real estate is so much more than just selling the house. You're concerned about the humanity involved. That's why Pennsylvania Realtors is fighting with the governor's office, because of the humanity involved here and all of the emotion and stress that goes along with real estate. So you'll see it says I help folks build personal security. I don't talk about building wealth because I'm more interested in real estate as a financial foundation for the future. And just for the record, my average price point is $285. I work with normal people, and I will help you no matter what you're spending. And it also says it's through smart buying and selling. I don't make promises about getting you the most money. I'm not going to promise you time frames because I can't control the exterior market. I can help you with smart buying and selling because that involves how it's smart for you, because every buyer's different, every seller's different. And it's not my job to tell them what to do. My job is to help them make their own best decisions. Another great action verb that realtors can use is serving. I have met so many realtors who see real estate as their calling. They serve the community through real estate. You're serving individuals through real estate, and you never told anybody that. Your clients have seen it and they've experienced it with you. And I'll tell you that if you're having trouble reworking your bio, go read your reviews, go read what people have written about you on Zillow and Realtor.com and your website. And you're going to say, oh, that is who I am. And use their perception of you to reshape it so that other people could have that same experience. And then check it across LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, wherever you are online. Check your bio and make sure it's reflective of what we're doing as professional problem solvers. So one of the ways you can get that message across now that you're articulating it carefully in writing is the way that you convey it through your actions in a restrictive market. What we're doing right now with Zoom, it's one of the best tools ever, and I've been using it for a couple years. I'll give you a couple of examples here of how I use it now and how I have been using it. You can do a group happy hour. You were told about that at the very beginning about, getting together with your favorite beverage and let's talk about things. And then you can meet with a lot of different people this way. This was me with some other North Carolina realtors from across my state. We were just checking in with each other. What's going on with you? What's going on with you? How are you? Do you need anything? And we were totally cracking up here because Deb Hayes, who's down at the bottom with part of the head and with azaleas, she's running for office and she's a candidate for county commission in Wilmington. And we all wanted to know how we could help her because it's an oddball election year. So have y'all reached out to Alan Dom to ask how you could help with his campaign and his work? I would, because I think Alan is amazing. He's going to be mayor of Philly at some point. He could be president as far as I'm concerned. And you want to support realtors who do great work because they understand the intricacies of what we do as professional problem solvers. And so we were trying to help Deb and we were helping each other. And frankly, if you want to get your pressure released, laugh a little bit, especially with other realtors who understand what you're going through. And in addition to meeting with other realtors by Zoom, you can meet with your golf group, your bunco crowd, the people you eat supper with when you have dinner parties, people you go to the brewery with, your Bible study group, your ladies group, whatever it is that you do in normal life that you can't do, You could have a Zoom call, and I will tell you that people are so starved for some conversation and humanity in these stay-at-home orders. It's going to probably be the first time they ever said, well, thank the Lord, my realtor reached out to me. But you know, they don't happen that often. So think about how you do this. Zoom, of course, is free. Just know that if you want to invite people, you are better off asking them to RSVP and then providing the link. If you just put the link out on Facebook or wherever, random creepers could just jump into your room. That sounds terrible when I say it out loud, but you know what I mean. Now, if you want to build a nice, cute little invitation, use tools like canva.com. I've been using Canva for a long time, as have many of y'all, I'm sure. I like it because it's free. I don't see the point of the paid version myself, and that's just because I'm cheap. And frankly, we should all be better with our money right this minute. We'll talk about that more in our other sessions. But we did this little program 3 weeks ago called Family Recess. Again, thinking about how what you do as far as messaging can reflect what your sphere is talking about. And everybody in my area, because I've got 2 teenagers at home and I spend a lot of time with other parents. I've got a massive mom text thread where we talk about things. What are y'all doing? Oh, Lego contest, love it. Puzzle game, let's do a puzzle race. We're going to do the sidewalk stuff. And people are trying to figure out how to stay active and connected inside their homes. So we ran this thing called Family Recess, tag us in your post and win. And I said I was going to give away 3 $20 gift cards. And oh, let's see. Alan is the most vulnerable. Well, we need to think about that because he's amazing. So anyway, how can you help? Again, I can't say enough. I like realtors being in elected office because they're not professional politicians and we know people like normal everyday people. Anyway, I didn't give away just 3 $20 gift certificates. Spoiler alert. I gave it $20 to everybody who entered because first of all, when people are in a panic and fear space, they like to be winners. And I would all day long rather spend $500, $20 a pop on my neighbors than ever give another penny to Zillow. I do not understand realtors that are putting money in the pocket of these giant websites that just want you to go away when you could be investing in the people that are your friends on Facebook and are your neighbors down the street. So if you like this idea, run with it. In real estate, we don't call it research and development. R&D means rip off and duplicate. And so make your own version and go enjoy it. And then see how your sphere reacts to it. And when you see other things, there was a neighborhood bear hunt that happened a couple weeks ago. Y'all remember, I'm going on a bear hunt from when you were kids and we're walking through the grasses, going across the bridge, and people were putting teddy bears in windows so that the families out doing their walks could socially distant, but have something for the kids to look for and just make it more interesting. Well, I saw what happened in a local neighborhood and called a past client who was involved in it. And I said, hey, will you ask your neighbors if I can borrow a couple of the photos and tell other neighborhoods what y'all did? And they all gave permission. So we made a little informational thing and put it up on our next door page because our next door, probably like yours, is multiple neighborhoods, and said, if your neighborhood wants to do it and you've got somebody who wants to play but doesn't have a bear, let me know and I'll get Amazon to send one to their house. So again, these are small expenses in the way of marketing, but it's the messaging that says, I'm here too. I'm part of this. As your realtor, I'm a neighbor. I'm stay at home, homeschooling, cooking, trapped, and I want to make things better for all of us. Y'all, that's who's going to get the phone calls when this is over. The realtors who are in front and are positive and are helpful, not the ones who are fussing and complaining, because I really don't want to list my house with somebody that's going to be a fusser and a complainer. And you can also build things like cover art on Canva, Instagram stories, all kinds of stuff. So that's my current new Facebook cover because I'm a baseball fan and I'm having a very, very hard time with not having baseball right now, and an even harder time with the fact that in this proposed league that's happening in the spring training fields, it's going to be universal DH. I'm a National League girl and I'm totally against the DH. But anyway, so who are you going to reach out to and what are you going to do to really connect? So you can do those bigger neighborhood things and then think about how video becomes this really amazing connectivity tool. Y'all like these things because you can look at each other, right? And see each other. And you've watched the stuff that's gone viral with the backgrounds. Obviously, I am positioned in my corner because I have 2 teenagers and a husband and I don't need them coming through my background, because you saw that one husband in his underwear that snuck up behind his wife's work call. It was hilarious. And she's like making him go away. It was funny. But you can think about what people are doing. And the numbers of people on social networks right now are through the roof. Well, they've got nothing else to do, so give them something to look at. On the left-hand side, David Greenspan, he is not a realtor, but he does a lot of work in our space, and his podcast is called Mindshare. So when you think about where you can get your brain to grow a little, get out of the real estate specific space. For heaven's sake, stay off Inman News and Riz Media for a minute and go do something that's positive and productive and outwardly focused. And you can maybe be a guest on podcast. Tell them you'd like to talk about Philly real estate. You'd be surprised how many people would say yes. Now, of course, if you're going to be doing that, don't be trying to represent the association. That's Stephanie's job, but you can give them an opinion from your neighborhood or just be a voice of positivity. There's so many things you can do to be a positive voice of realtors. And I'll just tell you, whenever I'm on a podcast, I'm being interviewed as somebody, I never think of myself as a realtor, as just Leigh Brown. Every time you open your mouth in front of other people, you are the realtors, because we are painted with the same broad brush. And so that's why I tell you to help your colleagues online who have gotten a little bit all capsy and angry, help them understand that they're not helping the perception of us all. And remember that you are the realtors too. So you can think in that space. Another space is my friend Holly Mabry. You may know Holly. She is the past president of the Arizona Realtors. And she's one of my favorite instructors in the business. She probably needs, I'm sure she's been at Triple Play. If she hasn't, she should be on the invite list. I love her. About 2 days into the stay-at-home orders, she started doing live coffee calls. And she was calling other people around the country, hey, what's happening there versus what's happening in her market in Sedona, Arizona. And at 7 a.m. her time, it was me in the grocery store when she called me. And so I'm rolling my buggy through the carts, getting stuff to fix supper. And if you want to know how you get 150 comments on a video, you have Leigh Brown say, I've got these 3 meals in my cart. Which one should I fix tonight? Because everybody's got an opinion. So they all said, you should make meatloaf. And then I did, made my little video about it. And go watch things like this. It's on my wall and Holly's wall, and give yourself some inspiration. So who moves to Philly? Is it people from New York City? I'm going to tell y'all what, there's going to be people moving out of New York City based on my friends in New Jersey have said their calls are already up from people who say, you know what, back to the suburbs we go. And y'all know they think Philly's a suburb of New York City, right? Because those people are crazy in that town. So why don't you call a realtor friend of yours there and say, what's happening in the market? We only hear about coronavirus. Are people still leasing apartments and selling apartments? And what is a doorman anyway? So you think about conversations you could have. Maybe people that come to Philly are coming from Cincinnati. Well, do a video call with a realtor from Cincinnati and say, let's talk about things and just check in. And if you're vulnerable enough to do it live, people really buy into that because they like to be a part of the conversation and add their comments in. They like to hear what's going on, and you're giving something that's relevant and pertinent and isn't super scripted and perfect. I can't tell y'all enough. Video is better when it's not polished and perfect. And too many realtors think that video means you have to hire somebody to run 4 angles and make you look good. No, people want to hear your opinions. They like you. And it's for some reason that is the kind of realtor you are, the educator, the triage, the top producer. Think about what you can do with that space. Another thing you can do with video, and my friend Sarah Lipnitz is doing this masterfully. She's in Birmingham, Michigan, which is a very high-end suburb of Detroit. And Sarah, her prospecting is always cups of coffee. Well, what she's been doing, I don't have my coffee cup sitting here because I've already finished enough for the day. She is FaceTiming people with warning. Don't FaceTime without warning. Y'all know that, right? You always text first and say, I'm going to FaceTime you in 15 minutes. So put your clothes on. And then she'll FaceTime them. And it's not a public video, right? This is not a live thing. Hey, how are you, John? I'm having this kind of Keurig today. What are you having? Because we should all be saving a lot of money right now in Starbucks. And so she talks to them. How are you doing? How's the kids? What y'all doing? All right, good. Just checking in. And so she's using video as a replacement for the face-to-face meetings. And I'm going to promise you, it's good if you're making phone calls. You get a gold star if you're making calls, but you get an extra gold star if you do it by video, because people, again, they're starved for connection. There's no better way to do it. And your excuse for not using it is you're too fat or old or ugly or you don't sound good or don't know what to say. people have been hiring you all this time and they know what you look like, what you sound like, and they actually believe you do have something to say. So get out of your own way. I will tell you though, the reason my camera looks like this, I have a stand for it, because the better you are at getting this angle up, the less goose flesh people see. You just look more attractive from a higher level. So another way I use video is buyer and seller consultations. And I've been doing this for a few years because, again, I work with a lot of estate sales and divorces because, again, that's where I've got good expertise. And in dealing with people in those scenarios, there's a lot of concern over this one said this one heard this, and did you tell this one, and all of the different voices involved. And so with a divorce, y'all know sitting across the kitchen table is not always your favorite place to be because the knives are right over there. And so I invite them to a Zoom call, and Zoom is the one I have been using just because it's so easy. There's other good ones. Another one is join.me is another very good teleconference one that's very inexpensive. And of course you got the big GoToMeetings and all of that. There's some new versions that have cropped up because of the coronavirus time at home. But with Zoom, they can click on iPhone, iPad, and computer and get there easily. Meet me on Zoom. And when we're on Zoom together, I go through, these are my books that I go through the process basically of buying and selling a home. And then there's North Carolina or South Carolina specific in there because I'm licensed in both states that will help them know what's going to happen in the process. And what happens then, Zoom records your meetings. I can fire off the link to their respective divorce attorneys, and now we're all on the same page. Everybody's above board. No favorites have been played. With estate sales, that means that one grumpy brother who refused to get on the call and likes to fuss at his siblings, but he ain't done nothing for mama. Well, because you know how that works with estate sales, right? It's my favorite part. Well, if I record the meetings, they can send it over to grumpy brother, and they did actually tell him everything. With buyers, I already mentioned to y'all earlier, what better time is there to go through every inquiry you've ever had and call them and say, hey, if you're looking for something that would help you get prepared for the future and you've got 15 minutes, if you'd like to meet me by Zoom, you could actually meet me as a human and not just an email person. I can walk you through the process of buying a home so that whenever you're ready, you're ready. We're having a lot of buyers take us up on that, specifically the under 250 market, because for us, that's our first time buyers. And we have always had good inventory there until the last couple of years when the investors swarmed in, because Charlotte's been a big target for investors. Well, now they may be looking at 2 competing offers instead of 12. It's still competitive because the inventory hasn't been solved, but it is less competitive. So that's been our primary target. We reach out to all of those opening price point people and say, look, you have some chances now. We can show you houses in some counties and not in others. So let's just tell me where exactly you're looking. We can help narrow them down based on the stay-at-home rules. And now I can tell them, if your goal is to buy, let's talk about it now so that you're ready. And then the minute the gates are open and we can go look, you'll be a step ahead of your competitors who will not have done all of the prep work. It's really working out well. So think about that as a solution. And if you want these books, there's a 50% off code. If you don't really want a fancy book to do, honestly, with Zoom, you have that little share button on your toolbar. You could just have a PDF of your offer to purchase so that you could walk them through that. That's an amazing thing to do for people in advance. And I'll tell you as well, I present offers this way because for too many years I have presented offers this way with my little notepad. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't think you're truly a realtor till you've purchased somebody a home warranty or a refrigerator because you missed it in the paperwork. Amen, friends. And I've stopped doing that since I started presenting on Zoom because you've got it there in front of you. You're walking them through everything. And again, it's recorded. And I've mentioned Fair Housing Month already one time. I will tell you that when you start doing your buyer consultations, seller consultations, and offer presentations on Zoom, you're going to find out that there's an even better version of yourself because sadly enough, humans do tend to behave better when we are recorded. So you'll find out that you are quickly going to become the best version of yourself possible. Now with that, see, thank you, Jake. I appreciate you jumping up on there with me. Oh, that's where I met David too, it was at NAR. Now I will and by the way, we don't know yet what leadership's going to do about annual, because the mayor of New Orleans yesterday said no large meetings until 2021. So we're waiting on a decision about that. Just FYI, if you're curious about the grapevine. So I've left us a few minutes here for any questions. If somebody has something you'd like to ask about, or there was a comment in here, some other things you can do with video. I think that was Peter. I will tell you one thing that you can see on my Facebook wall, and I don't put everything that I do with client interactions on social media because some stuff stays in my newsletter. I call it VIP content. So you have to give them a reason to subscribe. But we're doing a weekly Q&A by Zoom with somebody from our vendor list. So 2 weeks ago, I had one of my preferred lenders come on, and we were talking about, should people refinance? What is the skinny with FHA? Because that was when all of the hoo-ha was going on about the credit score minimums changing. What is forbearance? Kind of giving some ins and outs. And it's easy for most of y'all to be the interviewer because you know what you are asked by buyers and sellers and the public. And I had asked people to text me their questions so that it would be anonymous to the public. So I had my pre-questions, and I also know when I ask for pre-questions, the one who submitted have a need. And so they're my primary follow-ups of, did you get a chance to watch it? Did you get a good answer? Do you need more information? Are you good? And then last week we did one with our home inspector, and there's a lot of things you can do at home right now to help people prep their houses for future listings. Your home inspector is a wonderful interview to do, because the big question I asked him was, what's the thing people should be doing to their houses that they don't do, that they pay for later? You know, you and I call that deferred maintenance, but your sellers are at home right now. They can go outside and caulk the windows if somebody tells them to. And frankly, when you and I tell them, they kind of roll their eyes at us because we're just a realtor. And the home inspector says it, and they're like, yes, I'm going to do that right now. So anyway, think about that. You could interview your appraiser, your surveyor. All of the people that are on your list would love to be exposed to your audience, which is your friends and family through your networks. And also when you're interviewing them and tagging them, you're also exposed to their audience. And so you get the chance to showcase what kind of professional you are. So let's see, I've left us just a couple of minutes. I'm just going to keep rambling. That was Pam, not Peter, that asked me that. There you go, Pam. Matthew has reminded y'all there's a poll at the bottom of the toolbar that you're supposed to do before you leave the presentation. I think that's a rule. And if you don't give me 5 stars, I'm going to be sad and crying. And let's see, what else do y'all need? Anybody have a question? All right, so here's your homework since y'all aren't raising your hands. Fix your bios, go update your marketing, and craft a better way for people to understand that you, the realtor, are a professional problem solver regardless of exterior market conditions. Say thank you to your volunteer leadership at your local level and at your state level, because they are working their buttockuses off to protect and make sure you have opportunities. And please thank your staff and your government affairs people, because I have, in all my years as a realtor, all 20 of them, never been prouder to back our political action work and be a member of the PAC, because y'all, in the past, we have told people what we do. We've talked about flood insurance, and we've talked about MID, and we've talked about GSEs. But now that independent contractors can apply for and receive help, there is actually a financial reason that we have done this work and built these relationships for years. And I got to remind you too, when we do work for independent contractors, it doesn't just benefit realtors. So if you haven't yet applied for it, make sure you're talking to your bank about these SBA loans and about the independent contractor help. There's information at covid19relief.sba.gov. And remember this, your hairdresser, nail tech, landscaper, house cleaner, painter, contractor, handyman, most of them are independent contractors and small businesses as well. So a good set of phone calls for y'all to make between now and next session. Call all those people who have ever had a business relationship with you. Make sure they're aware of the opportunity to apply. If you call 20 people and they all applied, so much the better, because I'll bet you $1 that if you call your staging professional who works with 30 realtors and you call and say, hey friend, don't forget to apply for help, you're the only one who did it. And that pays off in the long term with relationships, because the way we build our future is by building a relationship before we ever make an ask. So that being said, I guess I'll turn it back over to Matthew, because he turned his camera back on. So I think he's ready to say something. Of course, Stephanie's wearing her realtor blue and smiling. So maybe it's her turn. So there you go, friends.
Hey, Leigh, could you give us a quick teaser for the next session?
Okay, the next session has actually more homework in it, so don't be afraid to show up. But I'll just tell you this. In the next session, we're going to talk about doing the things that y'all always knew you were supposed to do, but you never did because you were too busy. Or my favorite is you never got around to it. So I'm going to give you around to it, and we're going to get a lot of stuff done, but it's even more action items. The thing I'll tell you is that if you focus a little bit from this session on your messaging, it's going to make session 2 and 3 far more profitable and actionable, because y'all, I can't stress this enough. We are not respected as realtors, and it's because we never told anybody what we're doing. You can get that done. So I'll mention as well, there's free stuff over here. If you text the word kicktail to 555-888 or go to learnwithleigh.com, it's all the stuff from all the classes I teach. So most of it's totally not relevant to this webinar series, but I didn't feel like making anything different. And there's all my free shit. So just go download it to your heart's content. Most of it is self-explanatory. If it's not, bring your questions to the next session. And you do want to tag a friend. So I will tell you, if there's a realtor that you have really enjoyed co-broking with, you probably should call them, not just to make sure that they know that your association is putting on many opportunities during this time, but also because as realtors, we need to check on each other, because this is a hard and painful time for people who like to love on each other, who like to hug and talk to random strangers, and that ability has been taken away from you. So show the humanity within our association as much or more as you show it to the world. Long answer to your question. There you go.
Stephanie, you have some remarks? You want to wrap
I just
up
want
with?
to thank Leigh so much. Great information. And I just want to piggyback on the phone calls, picking up the phone and calling your clients. They want to hear from you. They just, somebody different from their family members, really. So, but thank you again, Leigh. And we look forward to next Thursday.
Well, I will see you guys then. There's all my social handles. I answer all my stuff myself. So if you have a question, fire it on through. I'll do my best to bring it back to you. And if you see something that looks like something you can do, you know what to do. R&D, rip off and duplicate. Take care of each other. And I'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, everyone. Stay healthy.
All right, GPAR folks, this afternoon, tune in. All right, take care. Until next time.